Hello everyone, welcome to the Joget workshop, a live demo on Hashgraph App Studio with a focus on the manufacturing team. My name is Penny and I'm your moderator for today's demo session. In this demo, we will showcase how you can visually build a decentralized application that interacts with the Hedera ecosystem, all the way from Hedera consensus services, generating Hedera accounts, sending transactions, and minting tokens, and at the same time, exploring the different opportunities for implementations in the manufacturing sector. Before we dive in, let's go over some housekeeping items. First of all, today's session will be recorded, and if you miss out any of our sessions today, no worries as you will have the access to the recording later. And if you have any questions in between the session, do not hesitate to reach out to us via the chat or the Q&A button in the Zoom control panel, and we will get to it as many as we can at the end of the workshop. Moving on, you will also be directed to a feedback form after today's session, and as always, we are happy to hear about your workshop experience. Your opinions matter to us, and we will really appreciate it if you could take a moment and provide your feedback for an improved workshop to attend in the future. Last but not least, stay at the end with us for a series of video tutorials and how you can redeem your free Joget Academy voucher. Moving on, today we have the pleasure to have Ed Marcus, who is the Developer Relations Engineer at Swiss Labs, and we have Andrew Forson, who is the Head of Growth at the Hashgraph Association, and we have Justin Wee, who is the Special Projects Technology Manager at Joget. They will be sharing about the integration between Joget low-code, no-code with Hedera Hashgraph, and how the Hashgraph App Studio makes dApp development and Hedera ecosystem more accessible for everyone to fully utilize the Hedera's capabilities. Ed, Andrew, and Justin, would you like to say hi to the audience?
Absolutely, and thank you, Penny, for that introduction. Hi, everyone. Ed Marcus here, calling from the Washington metro area, Washington, D.C., that is. And as Penny mentioned, I work at Swirls Labs, which is the firm driving marketing and engineering initiatives for the Hedera ecosystem. And there I lead the developer relations team. So everything from creating awareness about the Hedera network, building educational materials, and helping developers build and scale and succeed on our network. And so with that, I'll pass it on to Andrew.
Hi, everyone. This is Andrew Forson. Today, I'm calling in from Oman, having been at a conference. I am the head of growth of the Hashgraph Association, and you could think of us as the commercialization arm of the Hedera ecosystem. We provide a number of investments from the venture capital perspective to Hedera ecosystem projects that are looking to grow and commercialize. We also provide actual development support and other strategic support to entities that are looking to leverage Hedera throughout their deployment. We're very excited to be here. We think very highly of the Joget platform, in particular the Hashgraph Application Studio. And with that, I leave it to Justin.
Thank you very much, Andrew. So hi, everyone. I'm Justin, talking from Malaysia, and I am the Special Projects Manager in Joget. So I'm also leading the charge when it comes to blockchain implementation and integration. So today, I can't wait to show you a demo of the Hashgraph Application Studio, which is in collaboration with Hedera and Joget to create this amazing platform. Thank you, and back to you, Penny.
All right, thank you very much for the introduction. With that, let's take a look at today's agenda. To start with, we will first have a quick introduction on Hedera, the Hashgraph App Studio, and the Hashgraph Association, followed by a live demo to walk you through the key features, along with how you can make use of Joget Generative AI plugin to quickly generate an app skeleton by providing instructions so you can focus on the more exciting aspects of the dApps development to create more capabilities that interact with the Hedera network. So without further ado, I will now pass it over to Ed to kickstart the session. Ed, over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Penny. All right. And my goal over the next 5 to 8 minutes is to give you an overview of the Hedera network and share why our network provides the decentralized technology that we need for having a trusted internet, especially in the use cases that relate to areas like manufacturing, supply chain, logistics, and much more. So to start with our overview, I want to take us back to that promise of these Web3 technologies and to the evolution of distributed consensus. And when we think about the promise of Web3 compared to previous iterations of the internet, what we have or what we see is that ability to have fair and trusted results at scale, right? Effectively, it enables everybody from consumers to enterprises to remove trust assumptions that we may need to place on a single party. And that also means that the information, the consensus, is no longer under the control of a single party, or that single party can no longer alter information and data without transparency. So that was the promise. Now, if we look at the evolution of these Web3 technologies, in the early stages of distributed consensus, the focus was placed on fast value transfers and digital currencies, right? And tokens. Those are the pieces that enabled those baked in fast value transfers worldwide. But then we realized that distributed ledgers actually enable transparent and traceable identification and ownership of assets. So things like land, devices, stock shares, music, fine art, real estate, and much more, right? We could own those things and have transparency and traceability. And after that, we saw the smart contracts actually facilitate the execution of complex and decentralized or agreements between two market participants, right? Effectively, these market participants no longer have to know and trust each other to ensure that that value exchange will take place. That's what smart contracts open the door for. And then things get moving to a market scale where the fair matching and settlement can actually happen for many market participants, right? So that has been that evolution of distributed consensus, taking us from tokens and cryptocurrency to ledgers, contracts, and markets. So this all sounds great, the things that all these technologies are supposed to enable, but there have been and there still are some challenges with the technologies that are supposed to enable this evolution. And when we think about the early layer one distributed ledgers like Bitcoin and Ethereum, those have inherent weaknesses, right, that pose these challenges for mass adoption. And so these are precisely the challenges that the Hedera network addresses. And some of those challenges are enormous amounts of energy consumption when we think about proof of work blockchains. For example, Bitcoin being one of those, Ethereum in the early days was one of those. And so today we have third generation networks like Hedera that address this concern so that we can actually build with green technologies and enable more transparency in the sustainability area, for instance. There's also the concern of low processing speeds. Ethereum is great for its decentralization, and same for Bitcoin, but some of these networks are constrained by their designs to go slow as a trade-off, right? They need security, and so therefore you compromise on the speed. This is something that other networks address. You also have the high cost and unpredictable processing costs baked in some of these networks. How can you as a business plan your business costs and operation or raise funds when those costs have inherent volatility that is associated with these crypto tokens? And so that's a significant challenge for adoption in enterprises by businesses of these Web3 technologies. And there's also the fact that when we think about baked in value, there's a security consideration, right? We have seen security vulnerabilities arise from perhaps compromised designs or trade-offs that tend to happen in the logic of things like smart contracts. And then ultimately, there's the concern of centralization and lack of transparency for some of these new technologies that have arisen. So those are the challenges that we have to keep in mind when we think about the evolution and the promise of these Web3 technologies. However, as I mentioned, Hedera addresses many, if not all of these challenges by meeting and exceeding the requirements that enterprises, startups, and small teams have for their solutions, right? As I mentioned, there are other networks in the market that maybe focus on some of these requirements, but not all of them, right? Some are really fast, but maybe not secure or reliable. Some other ones may be secure, but they compromise on the performance or even the governance model of it. And so leading in all of these areas actually requires a tremendous amount of work and thought and engineering innovation, and that's what Hedera has brought to the table. And so Hedera, as I mentioned, is a public distributed system that provides amazing performance. So we're able to process 10,000 transactions per second with finality in seconds. We also provide compatibility with Ethereum tools and ecosystems. In terms of security, the network provides the highest degree of mathematical security for decentralized systems, thanks to its innovative consensus mechanisms. It's not leader-based, so it effectively removes leader-based moments in the consensus process. And due to its governance model, it provides a lot of stability, which is necessary for, it's great assurance, right, for businesses and enterprises that are seeking to deploy a lot of capital, time, and effort into building a scalable application on a decentralized network. I'm going to get into the governance model, but it's something very unique that Hedera has addressed. And then I also mentioned sustainability. As we think about the infrastructure, the digital infrastructure that we build our applications on, we want to make sure that that has a low impact on the carbon footprint that our company is putting out there. And so one of the things that I mentioned was governance, and this is a very unique and differentiating aspect of Hedera. The governance model of Hedera is a council of decentralized global organizations, so names like Google, Boeing, IBM, Ubisoft, Dell, Hitachi, and many others, and universities that come from different industries and different geographies, therefore representing different interests, and also diversified through time, right, to make sure that there's always fresh governance coming into the picture. And so this is the governing body that provides a lot of the stability and the assurance that this network is stable and it's not going to be forking or creating duplicates. And these are companies that are also building and exploring use cases on the network. So they're staking the reputation to ensure the well-being of the network over the long term. And the role of this governing council is to provide direction for the network, so making feature decisions, governance policies, defining API prices for the network, and token economics and incentives, and much more. So these companies are not just labels that are shown here. These companies are actually involved in the day-to-day operations and governance decisions of the network. So a very important component of how the transparency and the governance and stability is addressed by the network. And then when we look at the technology side, I mentioned a lot of benefits around stability, security, performance, sustainability. A lot of that comes from this innovative Hashgraph consensus algorithm. It solves the same problems as a blockchain, but it's an alternative that is next generation, more efficient, and so on. And so based on this Hashgraph consensus algorithm, we have the services that application developers and builders use to create their decentralized applications. So we have a service for consensus. You can think of this as a timestamping or notarizing service, which can be used for high throughput applications that need fair ordering and a decentralized record or log of the order of those transactions. We have a token service for tokenizing tokens, anything, right, without the need to write a complex smart contract. This is just APIs in languages that you're familiar with, Java, JavaScript, Go, and so on, to tokenize anything from real estate to shoes to software licenses and much more. You can name it, whatever you want to tokenize. And then we also have a smart contract service that provides the flexibility and programmability that more complex use cases may require, right? And so this is the foundation where application developers and builders like yourselves create value, right, in areas of data integrity, tokenization, decentralized identity, manufacturing, supply chain payments, and a lot more. And that is where that value is consumed and used by the end users, which can be individuals, enterprises, governments, and even IoT devices. So that covers the governance and the technology side of the network and the things that are very unique and what it has to offer. Now, when we think about the growth of the network, we're very happy with the growth and adoption that we've seen so far. This is a network that open access, I believe in 2019. Open access means going public, right? We're a public permission network at the moment. Public meaning that anyone can build applications without having to letting us know about it. And so we have a community of more than 20,000 application developers attending events, meetups, hackathons, and so on. Hundreds of applications deployed in production since that open access. In 2019, we processed thousands of transactions per second. That surpasses the transaction volume of any other distributed ledger out there. And these are all user-submitted and user-paid transactions. We have processed almost 40 billion transactions to date. And we have seen phenomenal growth when it comes to accounts that could represent users, IoT devices, and much more. Just in 2023, we saw over 2.5 million accounts created on the network. So this is a quick overview of the network by the numbers. Now, I mentioned a council of global organizations and enterprises, and that is great as they explore and build use cases, but it's also for small teams, small companies, startups, individuals, and so on. And here's some of the projects that we have seen deployed use cases in production in multiple areas. So I'm more than happy to tell you more about the network as a follow-up or maybe during the Q&A later on, but I think I'll leave it here and I'll pass it to Andrew to continue with the next portion of the presentation.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you. As most of you have seen, Hedera is certainly at 38 billion transactions is the most used public ledger. From the perspective of the Hedera ecosystem, I'm going to be very, very brief, but I just want to highlight that the Hashgraph Association is comprised of several sub-entities, including the Hashgraph Group, which provides enterprise application and implementation support, and the Hashgraph Ventures and Venture Studio. And as you can guess from the name, what we do is we invest in projects that leverage Hedera. So if you have a project idea and you have some traction with it, and whether you're a small startup or a large enterprise, if you are seeking to use Hedera and require assistance, we provide investment by way of cash, engineering support, and smart money to ensure that your project gets off the ground quickly and efficiently. The other thing that the Hashgraph Association does is generally provide support to the ecosystem through educational programs and developer training. And one of the areas that I'm most involved with is actually the productization and commercialization of technology pieces that you can leverage and use in your existing application. So we are very, very bullish on Hedera. We think it is the business and enterprise distributed ledger of choice. And we are particularly bullish on Joget for this particular reason. Joget seems to be very, very well placed for helping businesses solve problems, leveraging Hedera quickly and easily. And with that, I think we should move into the demo. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Andrew. So I'll take over from here. Let me know once you can see my screen. Okay, fantastic. So I think we're good to go. Excellent. So, all right, let's get started with the demo of the Hashgraph Application Studio. Now, I just want to preface that the platform is truly vast when it comes to the amount of features available to you when you're building your apps, and even when it comes to maintaining your applications, because apps don't just stop developing once they're built and delivered. So since today's demo, I'll try to limit it just about under 30 minutes. So it will be a jam-packed with plenty of feature showcases. Okay, so to get started here, as you can see, this is the first screen we see when we enter the Hashgraph Application Studio. Some of you may have noticed that I'm running this off my own local machine. So we have the option of deploying this on-prem or on cloud. You even have options for multi-tenancy and clustered setups as well. So the possibilities of setup is endless over here. So I'm already logged in as the admin user. and we can get started on building apps in here. So since today's theme is about manufacturing, well, manufacturing has plenty of angles, right? You have the supply chain aspects, you got the manufacturing processes, you even have the warranty part post-sale. So for today, we will keep the theme compact down to just about warranty claims. So I'm going to create a blank application. Now I could do that, or I can even leverage other technologies to help us build our app today. So I'll make use of generative AI from Joget Marketplace. And in here, I simply need to key in a meaningful app name. So I'll call this, let's say, warranty claim. Of course, this app we're creating today is limited to just warranty claims. By right, even to record anything on decentralized ledgers like Hedera, we should be able to record even the device registration in its serial number on-chain and check it against that. But today, we'll just keep it within the claims portion. So once you configure your app ID, of course, we'll need a valid GPT API key. If you already have one, that's great. You can configure the service. And at this point, we simply need to describe what app we want. Now, of course, I already have a really short and sweet description of the app. Basically, I want to create a warranty claim where the buyer can submit a warranty claim to the investigator for approval. Now, if we have additional business rules, we can even incorporate it into our prompt. But for now, this is as simple as it needs to be. So let's click save and give a few seconds for the Hashgraph Application Studio to do its work. And let's check out the result. So let's give it a few seconds. There we go. So just like that, we are now in the App Studio. You notice there's already forms, list, the process, and the UI automatically generated for us. So let's quickly inspect these elements to see if it's within our expectation. So when it comes to the warranty claim process, since we didn't specify much more than that, so the AI performs several assumptions about what it thinks our process should look like and how our forms should look like. So as you can see, we have the buyer, we have the investigator roles in here. These white boxes here, these are what we call activities or screens that your users will encounter. So once it goes through investigation of the claim, if it's approved, it does something else. So it's a pretty straightforward single approval process it generated. And secondly, the form over here, it also performs some of the assumptions of what our form should have. So the fields such as the claim ID, the buyer name, product name, serial number, and so on and so forth, it assumes these are the fields that we want, but we can always come in and modify the form even further. So if we need any other additional elements, or let's say we need to modify the purchase date, or we want to know when is the warranty claim been submitted, let's go ahead and modify the form to our preference. So for example, we have our date picker here. We drag it in, and we can say this is the date of claim. And as we can see, it also performs automatic suggestions for the field IDs here. Apply the change. Now, if we want to make any more modifications, we also can. Let's say the section, let's make it a bit more meaningful. So I'll call this warranty claim details. Apply the change. And of course, we have plenty more elements that we can make use of when it comes to grids, several calculations, select boxes, captchas, and many, many more for you to explore. But for now, this will have to do. All right. So why not, without further ado, let's just see how our app looks like with barely any modifications made from the generative AI. So I publish the app. I have the option to launch the app from the App Studio, or I can even come back to the App Center and launch our app from here as an end user. So let's see how it looks like. So here we are as an end user. The warranty claim app, it only contains one single process, which is the ability to submit warranty claims. Let's just quickly run through to see how it would look like. So for example, I'm going to fill up some of the values over here. And serial number, let's just key in any values. Purchase date, excellent. Issue, this is a live demo. Now, I don't have much of documents in here, so I'm just going to simply attach any document later on, or we can also modify the form if we don't need any of these validations in here. So I'm just going to quickly modify that. So as you can see, we're making modifications very quickly on the fly. We're switching very quickly from the backend app designer and as the end user, so we can come in and very quickly validate our changes that we're making. So over here, I'm just going to make some notable changes.
Justin, while you're making those changes, I'd just like to point out to the audience that normally when you're building an application like this that connects to a back end, you normally have to recompile your code to capture the business logic so that it calculates differently. What Justin is able to do via the Hashgraph Application Studio is make the changes on the fly so that without recompiling, you're able to make tiny edits, script edits, and business logic edit, and deploy your application all at once.
All right. Thank you, Andrew. So here we are again. And as Andrew mentioned, all we need to do is make our change and refresh. The changes are applied instantly on the App Studio. So let's just go ahead and continue with this warranty claim over here. All right, we're almost done. And we're going to click Submit. Now, I've already submitted the warranty claim, and we can see it under our own inbox. Now, since I'm an admin user, I can also see this in my own inbox from the approver's perspective. So at this point, we can just click on this investigate claim. And let's say as an investigator, if I have any comments, I can add it in here. If you want to modify the form even further for the investigator, you can also do that. You can make your decisions down here whether to approve the warranty claim, reject it, send it back for clarification, and so on and so forth. Now, on the top here, this will help in your apps, especially when your end users are within a complex business process. So our business process here is actually really simple. It's just a single approval, and that's it. But in here, it's going to tell you who started this process, when it started, where am I exactly, and how many steps before the process ends. So at no point your end users will be lost in a big business process when they are performing their actions in here. So I'm going to click approve. Let's go with the happy story. And there we go. There's nothing left in the inbox. And if I go to my closed claims, we can see the record is here and we can always view it back. So now we have the app already ready to be modified even more. So let's start to incorporate elements of Hedera's features into this application, specifically the Hedera consensus service. How do we do that? Let's see from the App Studio once again. So I'll come back to the App Studio, and this time I'll go to plugin default properties, and I'll look for the Hedera default backend configurator here. Once I click into it, it only requests for your operator ID and key. So if you don't already have a testnet account, you can go ahead, head on to portal.hedera.com to get your testnet credentials. And once you have that, simply copy your ID and key in here. And we should be good to go. For the backend service, today we'll make use of the public mirrors from Hedera, but you also have the option for other services if you wish to, like our here. And for the network type, you can always choose from testnet, or if you're already ready to go live, it's only one toggle away. So let's proceed, click submit, and done. Just like that, we are already ready to start building decentralized features into our apps. So first step over here, we're going to go to our process builder. And so as we know, if the investigator approves a specific warranty claim, let's say we would like to take advantage of the Hedera consensus service to record that warranty action being performed so that it always keeps a publicly transparent, auditable, trackable trail for everyone to have a look, to pull the data and do whatever they want with it on a public domain. So over here, I'm going to continue to modify this process. Let's say once it's approved, not only I want to send out an email, I want to perform additional actions. So in here, for this tool, I can just simply configure it to something more meaningful. I can say that I would like to create a topic, for example. And for the mapping over here, we can select several different tools available with the Hedera tooling. So we can perform actions related to the consensus service, or maybe you want to do something with the Hedera token service, mint, burn, associate, whichever. But today, it's the topic management tool. And from the operation type, we want to create a topic. So let's do that. So over here, it's only going to request for some of the details, such as who is the administrator for this. If you want to, you can even disable it completely, but do note that your topics will be permanent. So for now, I'll leave it for the operator. Now, I can also set this topic as a private topic, which means you will need a key or a submit key in order for anyone to submit messages to this topic. We want to keep this only within specific parties to submit messages. Now, once we do this, below here, we have the option to store the topic ID and the submit key. There are other variables that we can store, such as the transaction ID, the full URL to the transaction, and so on. So for now, we'll just need these two fields in here. I'll need to create it. So I'll apply the change first. And next, I'll need to edit this process and add a few more workflow variables. So for example, I'll add the topic ID in here to track it, and also the submit key. And just for fun, I'm also going to add in the transaction URL for us to explore it on HashScan later on, or any compatible Ledger Explorer tools. So with that, I've added these workflow variables. And now I can come back to my tool and finish the configuration. So for the topic ID, it's all a matter of clicking on these configurations here, and that's it. And for transaction URL, over here, apply the change. Now, of course, creating the topic itself may not be sufficient, so we need to add one more tool in here. And finally, it ends the process. And for this one, it would be the tool to submit the message to the topic itself. Now, in most production systems, how we create these topics, it really is depending on your business logic, whether if it's one topic per device or one topic per manufacturing branch, whichever. It really is your option, and how you structure your messages, it's also up to how you want it to be. There's really no restriction here. For example, I'm going to select submit message. And now for the topic ID here, we can make use of the property assistant because we want to retrieve that value dynamically. So for example, I will search for the variable that I entered just now. And for the workflow variable, it will be the topic ID here. Click insert. There we go. The topic ID will be automatically retrieved. And same for the submit key in here. Since I store it as a workflow variable, I simply need to do the same. Insert. Excellent. So for the messaging here, it's pretty free freeform. You can key it in any format that you wish to, whether if it's JSON, if you want to keep it as native to your apps as possible, or let's do something a bit more fun. We can even make this in plain absolute English. So for example, we can describe what is the message. So we can say this person named something is performing a claim for a device with the serial number at this specific date. So we can even do something like that. So we'll make use of the property assistant once again to help us formulate that sentence for us. So we can make use of the form hash variable within the property assistant, select our form, and the form fields that we would like to fill up. So I can say this person, I'll need the person's name. There we go, by your name, insert it. So we can say this person name of this person created a claim. Okay, a typo, give me a quick moment. On the meantime, while I formulate the sentence, Ed or Andrew, you can come in to fill in any additional information if you wish to.
Absolutely, Justin. I just want to highlight that I love what the Joget team has done here to enable business teams to prototype applications quickly and deploy them to production and modify them, as we saw, in very short cycles. And I was just thinking about the tremendous effort that it would take to code the back end and the front end of this application that you just generated in seconds. So I find impressive, right, that seamless integration of blockchain or distributed ledger components and also generative AI technology. And so when it comes to the Hedera components, I love what you're showing here. And I think it's going to make it clear the value that these distributed ledgers bring to this type of applications to enable that transparency, that auditability, and sharing information that has a guarantee of immutability with the relevant parties, whether it's inspectors or investigators or auditors or even the consumers, right? We have that guarantee given by math, by a decentralized system, and makes all of that transparent and accessible to anyone. So very good work.
Thank you very much, Ed. Okay, so we are done creating our tools over here, which creates a topic and sends it to the Hedera ledger to be recorded, and we can submit messages to that topic. So we can now come back to the App Studio. Now, the values within our process that we created, they stay within the process context in here, so nothing gets out unless you really want it to. So in this case, for transparency to our audience today, I want to show the topic ID, for example, and I also want to show the transaction URL for all of us to see later on. So in here, I'm actually going to add a new section into our form. I'll call this live data. And since this is live data, I don't need to modify it. I put them as read only. And in this case, I'm going to drag just a basic text field. I'll show you what is the topic ID, first of all. And second, I'll also show you the URL of this topic. So before we do that, we can now make use of another component within the Hedera integration tooling. For example, the Hedera Explorer link, I'll drag it in. And for this, it's just a convenience plugin for us to access our transactions very quickly. So for example, I can configure it where I would like HashScan. The value I'm expecting is a topic, and it should be this field. Now for the button here, I can name it whichever I like. I can say I would like to verify the topic on HashScan, and that should be it. So I'll just apply the change first and click save. And now that we have this text field over here that we can add values in, I can now come back to my process in here and add one more tool in here. So as you can see, we can add as many automated actions into the process as much as we like. There's really no limit here to how much you want to automate. So for example, I can just call this update topic ID. And for this mapping in here, I'll make use of another tool in here called update from data. And all this is going to do is push that value from the process to the form. So for example, topic ID, and the value in here will make use of the property assistant once again, and select the topic ID itself.
Justin,
wonderful. Yes, Andrew, go ahead.
Can you let us know, is it possible in using those processes to have connections to external data sources as part of the process? So could you pull in data from another relational database or flat file or other customer input and include that in the process and then write to the Hedera message?
A very good question, Andrew. So to answer that question, when it comes to inwards integration, basically having the Hashgraph Application Studio consuming data from external sources, there's really many ways to do this. We can do it in our processes, in our forms, list. So just to show you the possibilities first, in terms of tools available in the process, we have the ability to, well, send out emails, we can export a PDF of a form, perform various different blockchain functionality. We can call and JSON API to consume data. So SQL query tool for connecting to other databases and many, many, many more. We can even make use of AI models in here if you want to transform specific data points within the app. And it's not just limited to the tools here. For example, even the decision routes in here, it supports AI in here. So if you have your own custom TensorFlow AI models, you could incorporate it into your app, and the AI helps you make decisions on your behalf. And not only that, when it comes to list and forms, I'll show you how it looks like. So I'll come back to the form, for example, and when it comes to forms, let's say if one of your fields requires more options or more data to consume from, we can also adjust where does this data would come from. This can apply to a form element specifically, or it can apply to an entire section if you want to. You can load the data from one database, and we can even save the data to a completely different source altogether. So the options here is truly vast. So I hope that answers your question.
I want to jump in,
Perfect.
and this was a great question and a great answer. But I find tremendous value in the ability to do that, right? Because it comes down to the architectural decision of being able to keep private information private, right, where it matters, and where it is appropriate, and then exposing and feeding that information into these processes. And if you need to make it accessible, transparent, and verifiable in the public ledger, it's great to know that the Hashgraph Application Studio gives you that facility to do so. So I think that was a great question, and yeah, perhaps even a better answer as well. So great to see that.
All right, thank you. Okay, so coming back to the demo, I've already made the necessary modifications in here. So let's try again to submit this warranty claim once again, and let's see what's different this time. So I'll click submit, and once again, go to the inbox, check it out. And from the inbox in here, all right, we can see if everything's in here checks out as an investigator. So let's type in some comments. Record this on the Hedera testnet. And once I click this button to approve it, all the actions should be automatically performed for us. So when I click approve, I should give it a few seconds to communicate with the Hedera live network. And that should be it, done. So let's see how this looks like right now. So from this record in here, I can click view, and you notice there's already a topic appearing in here. And we can see that the entire process is indeed completed. There's no more actions left. So why not? Let's click on this button and see how it looks like on HashScan. So for example, we can see there's a topic existing with this specific topic ID, and there's a message in here. And when we click on this, we can see that it performs the consensus just now. So there's no simulated environments here. It's being done on the live testnet right now. And as we scroll down, we can see this is the result that we have retrieved. So we can see this person named Andrew created a claim ID of this ID with serial number of this on the date of this. So just like that, we can even formulate sentences in plain English. We can create it in any format that we like, whether if it's human readable or more for your apps to read it. So there we are. This is just a quick taste of how you can integrate your apps with Hedera features with the Hashgraph Application Studio. But the demo doesn't just stop there. Now that we have gotten a taste of how we can develop our decentralized apps, let's see what other features that the App Studio can offer us to continue to maintain and keep our app performing at optimal levels. So coming to the App Studio in here, aside from all these functionality, we also have the option to modify our list. Now it's really fast in here. Now in coming to the UI part also, we can also make some quick modifications. So for example, we have this default view in here, but I want to change the look and feel very quickly. We can do that. So for the theme, I can select from different themes. Let's try color admin, for example. And from here, I can switch the menu position to my preference. I can change the color schemes. Hopefully I pick a nice one. Okay, that should do it. Okay, right. And of course, we also have the option to change many different aspects of this theme in here, such as the background, the header, the sidebar, many
Justin?
things. It's endless in here. Yes, Andrew.
If I can interrupt briefly, so this application, you're doing it on a laptop, but is it mobile ready? What do you have to do to get the application to work on a mobile device?
Very good question, Andrew. So here's the steps on how you can make your apps mobile ready. If you're ready, here it goes. Step one, Absolutely nothing at all. Okay, let me show everyone here what we mean by that. So now that I've made some quick modifications in here, some of you may have noticed something familiar, such as progressive web apps. So in any applications we create in the Hashgraph Application Studio, it is mobile responsive by default. It is also PWA ready by default. And what all this means is basically, if I were to switch it to a mobile view, for example, you notice all the components will conform automatically to my view. The same goes to all your forms, your inboxes, your entries in here. So if I click back, we can see it also switches to a more mobile-friendly view. And the same thing goes to any other device pretty much. And not only that, it also supports PWA. So what we mean is if I were to intentionally go offline, which unfortunately I can't in a live webinar, you will actually see the app still functions to a certain degree. So it reminds you of an app like, let's say, your messaging apps on your phone. If you do not have internet connection, they don't just disappear, right? Applications you create on the App Studio, they will keep alive with minimal functionality. And it also supports features such as background synchronization, offline capabilities, native light device access, such as camera access, NFC access, and all that good stuff. So when it comes to mobile ready, it's already ready. There's really no need for any additional work in here. So very good point brought up. Thank you, Andrew. And to add one more thing about the UI, of course, we have plenty more configurations that you can really tinker around. So if you're more of a developer that you want to make small tweaks, you can also do that with custom CSS, JavaScript. The freedom is all yours. Or if you really want to go pro code, the platform is also extensible via plugins. So even the themes that you select in here, these are actually plugins that you can create and to fully customize the platform to your preference to match your company branding. Okay, so that's the UI portion in here. Now, coming back here, I also want to talk about the API builder portion. So as we know, all the apps that we create, they're not just sitting in silos. What if there's a need for other third parties to come integrate with our applications to pull our data for their own business purposes? Of course, you can do that. So to show you, I'll go back to the App Studio and I'll create an API document. I'll just call this test. Click Save. And over here, this is the API builder. And the experience is very familiar. On the left side is our API elements that we can drag in. So for example, I can drag in a list API and I can expose all of the data for my warranty claims. And let's say even processes itself, I can expose it as an API. So I can imagine where third parties, when they want to develop apps to talk to your data, you can just drag and drop a process API, select the process that they want to participate in, and you only need to enable the APIs that you need. You leave it off for security purposes. So in this case, even third-party developers, whether they know it or not, it can involve blockchain operations without even being aware that there are ledger functionalities happening. So once you've configured your API, we can even preview it live, where you don't need any special third-party tools to test those APIs that you just created. So for example, I'll try out this warranty claim list. And over here, we can put in any filter if you want, but I'll leave it blank for now and click execute. So by doing this, just like that, we can see a response of our API. We can see the request URL and the curl command. So if you just take all these details, send it to your developers, and they'll know exactly how to integrate with your application, just like that. So that would be the API builder portion for outwards integration. Now, the final point before I close the demo off is I want to show you how you can maintain your applications at all times. So for any application you build on the Hashgraph Application Studio, you can go to the admin bar, you can go to monitor, and you can go to performance. This is the APM, or Application Performance Management. In here, it tells you your server performance. It also gives you detailed app metrics about all of the operations you perform on every single page. So this gives you a detailed breakdown of your app's performance, their time taken, percentiles, averages, all of it is in here. It tells you your CPU, waiting time, allocated memory, and many, many more rich information. So you don't need to rely, once again, on third-party tooling to monitor your performance at all times. And in here, it also records slow traces, error traces, queries, and even service calls that it performs if you have any external APIs that you're calling from your app. So this really gives you the full metric. And you can even add in alerts for any of your infrastructure team or app designers. You can add alerts where it meets a specific metric, such as error counts, memory usage, CPU usage to a certain threshold, and it will automatically notify your developers or app designers to immediately pay attention to. And basically what this allows is it allows you to proactively manage your server, your applications, rather than being reactive after problem has arises. Now, to go even one level higher above the performance, we also have governance health check feature, where it checks many other aspects of your entire server as a whole, such as performance or app quality, security aspects. So as we scroll down, it provides you all these details in plain English, such as your memory usage, your CPU usage. It gives you warnings if you did not enable specific things on your platform, or let's say it tells you, okay, I do not have security enhanced directory manager enable, or if I have any processes I've left hanging, such as a unconfigured point in my process, it also tells me that, and so on and so forth.
So you've shown a lot of enterprise and application management features, but what about things for developers like version control or GitHub? Does the Hashgraph Application Studio support any of those features?
Very good question, Andrew. So I'll come back to the app. Okay. Now, for any applications that you create, if you wish to deploy it, there are many ways to achieve that. Of course, number one, you can export the app as is. And over here, it even tells you all the necessary plugins that this app requires. You can even export it altogether. So it's a lot easier for anyone else to just import the app and they have all the necessary plugins available on their platform. Same thing to the form data. If you have any sample data that you would like to attach with the app, you can also go ahead and attach that. Then there's also another way. When we go to app versions in here, this is how we can perform incremental upgrades to our applications. So when you make any changes in your app, it actually applies to a specific version. Now, if we want to, we can even create a new version of this app. So it gives us a sort of a sandboxed developer experience where we can modify stuff, tinker around, and it does not affect the live published version. And only once you're ready, you can click publish, and your app enhancements will go live on version 2, for example. And not only that, if you have existing CI/CD pipelines within your organization, you can also make use of Git configuration, because all applications you create, they are automatically saved in a local repository along with the commits of the users. So in here, you only need your remote JIT URI, fill in all these details in here, and whether you want to perform automatic synchronization from your Git repo and so on, you can just configure it and save. That's it. So I hope that also answers the quick question. Okay, perfect. So I think we have covered the 30 minutes. I would like to give the session back to Penny. Let's go ahead and answer some questions. So thank you. Back to you, Penny.
All right. Thank you very much, Justin. So let me just bring up my slide. Okay. All right. Once again, thank you very much for showing us a thorough walkthrough of the Hashgraph App Studio and how we can quickly speed up our dApps development with the Joget Generative AI plugin. And with that, we are now opening the floor to our audience, and let's see what are the questions that the audience has for us. All right. The first question. This is something that we get quite often, and this is for you, Justin. So the question is, what if I want to customize the UI of the dApps and build a landing page for it? let's say with a dashboard. Is this feasible?
Very good question, Penny. About the dashboard, yes, absolutely. Um, I wish I could have showed that in the demo, but as we know, 30 minutes, it's not much of time to really show the vast features available within the App Studio. We have a feature called Page Components in the UI portion where you can add individual components to to your pages essentially. So you're not just limited to one functionality per page. You can configure it where it can even show multiple reports, multiple charts, information tiles, your own custom columns and layouts. You can do all of that with a matter of drag and drop via the UI. And same thing, you can, as shown just now, you can do no code, low code, and pro code. All three aspects of these can be done just from the UI configurations itself. So good question.
Okay, thank you very much. And another question, this is for you as well, Justin. Regarding the dApps development, the demo that you showed just now, is that mobile responsive?
Short answer, absolutely yes. No effort required at all. You do not need to create your apps more than once just for the same or different UIs or screen aspect ratios. One app for all UIs. Yep. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And the next question, this is for you, Andrew. What factors should be taken into account for the successful implementation of dApps?
Yeah, I would say the system design and requirement selection has to be done very, very clearly. I think the biggest thing that we have to consider is really the distributed ledger itself is not a database in the normal sense. So you have to manage the data that you're going to assign to the ledger and what features of the ledger you are going to use and when in your application, more so than you would have to do in a regular Web 2 application. So with the understanding, for instance, that data that is assigned to Hedera would be immutable, what sort of messages, what sort of data are you going to expose that will exist in perpetuity? That's critical. And then the other thing you have to take into account, which I think that Joget is particularly useful for, are the validations and workflows needed to determine when data is ready to be assigned to the ledger. Because you can't have interim state data that has not been validated or is incorrect be assigned to a mutable ledger. And one of the things that Joget is particularly good for, which I don't know if it was really fully covered in this demo, is workflows. You are able to have a number of processes and validations inbuilt into the architecture of Joget that allows you to assign validation roles to different participants within your application. And at the end of a series of these workflows, which can be defined in the processes, remember that process flow map that Justin had? At the end of a series of workflows, then you can determine to either write something to the chain, mint a token, burn a token, take a specific immutable action. Those are the key considerations in my view.
Okay, thank you very much, Andrew, for the sharing. And then, as we are running out of time, we are just going to take just one more question. And this will be for both Ed and Andrew, the both of you. So the question is, for system integrators who are looking to maximize their efficiencies, what are the ideal use cases that they can make use of to implement Joget?
So when we think about use cases and how they may align with what Hedera has to offer, there's certainly a vast array of verticals and specific applications that can be targeted. So we can think of distributed ledger technologies like Hedera in a very similar capacity to, for example, generative AI technologies. It's a very general purpose technology that when we think about it, it's about creating these auditable records, immutable records that can be exposed. It's about decentralizing value exchanges so that they can execute without any trust assumptions within parties. And so when we extrapolate that to specific use cases and industries and verticals, I think the possibilities are immense, right? And that's why we see technologies like Hedera, like distributed ledgers, permeate multiple industries. And some of the different use cases that we're seeing in production today have to do with coupons, have to do with decentralizing carbon offsets and carbon credit marketplaces, decentralizing energy marketplaces, right? So that we can have smarter grids, opening new marketplaces for data, believe it or not, with IoT and so much more. We also see it in supply chain and manufacturing, as we're seeing in this demo. So yeah, those are a few of the possibilities and use cases that come to mind where system integrators can play a role to accelerate this adoption of DLTs and have impact and value in society, right? And how we function with the workflows that take place today.
Yeah, I think Ed expressed it very well. I'd probably add that any information that you are supposed to be able to consume and use, that you don't have to trust where it came from or the source. So I think that's very, very critical. I also think one of the best use cases that permeates all industries is assignment of ownership that is not to be disputed. And the fancier term for that is real world asset tokenization, where basically you are assigning ownership associated with an actual item, but representing the existence of that item and the ownership of that item on chain. This is a really good use case because, again, it allows multiple parties to access this information for their own purposes without having to necessarily trust the source of that information because of the methodologies used to assign that information on chain.
Okay, thank you very much, Ed and Andrew, for the sharing again. So before we close the Q&A, Ed, do you have anything to share with the audience?
I'll probably just go back to that last quarter of the presentation. I found the customizable and extensible aspect of these Hashgraph Application Studio applications very important points, right? Those parts made it clear that in a way the goal is not to replace developers, but to enable them to build faster and focus on building towards the business goals rather than getting caught in any nuances of specific code or frameworks. And also that ability to expose through APIs, monitor in production, tells me that it's a very well thought out solution, right? That covers different aspects from the creation, the design, the versioning, the deployment, the continuous integration, and so on. And so I just see tremendous value for business and enterprise teams that are looking to get started and start running with these blockchain and AI components in a very frictionless manner. So just reiterating the value that I see on this platform and solution that the Joget team has built.
Thank you very much, Ed. And Andrew, do you have anything to share with the audience?
Yeah, go to the website, download it, build your app, tell us about it.
Short and sweet. Thank you very much, Andrew. And that's it for the Q&A. And before we go, we would like to share some of the resources where you will be able to make use of. So if you go over to our website, like what Andrew said just now, you will be able to find these step-by-step video tutorials that will walk you through how to generate a Hedera account, send transactions, mint tokens, mint NFT, burn tokens, and how you can create a token swap app on Hashgraph App Studio. And if you would like to learn more about the Joget platform and low-code, no-code technology, feel free to head over to the same website at www.hashgraphappstudio.com and submit a voucher request with the request code Hedera, and we'll get back to you as soon as we receive your submissions. And seems that now we have come to the end of the session. Once again, thank you very much, Ed and Andrew, for joining us today, and again for your truly enlightening sharing on Hedera Hashgraph and the Hashgraph Association. We appreciate your sharing on how the Hashgraph App Studio opens up new opportunities for implementations in the manufacturing sector. And also for Justin, for your demo on the Hashgraph App Studio, thank you very much for showing us in action on the incredible synergy between Joget, low-code, no-code, and Hedera Hashgraph, and how the platform can help to simplify complex tasks all the way from topics, account creations, assets transfer, and many, many more. Not to forget about the attendees here today for staying till the very end with us. We really appreciate it. So one last thing before we end the session, don't forget to feed up the feedback form directed to you after the workshop, as we would love to hear about your workshop experience. And before we go, we are going to pick 2 Joget Academy vouchers from the attendees here today. So the first winner goes to Troy. Troy, congratulations. And the second winner goes to Josh. Congratulations. And we will get those vouchers to you via email. So if you do not see it in your inbox, please don't forget to check your spam folder. With that, we are going to end it right now. Once again, thank you everyone and have a nice day.